Bit Blog.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 35 of the Frogbit Blog podcast. In this episode, I'm looking at octopuses on MDMA. Now, seriously, I'm doing a new feature about cosmic stuff, and I get the King's College Traditionals back in to do me another theme tune. Sexy Len is back again, and we've got all sorts of things going on. I've got my regular feature, Nature is Clever, and Rich People Doing Good Eco Things. So, listen up, as they say. So, what's been in the news? Well, they used to put cocaine in Coca-Cola, but now they're considering lacing it with marijuana. Well, CBD oil anyway. This is what it says. Coca-Cola is considering developing a range of marijuana-infused beverages to help ease physical problems such as inflammation, pain and cramps. The world's largest drinks company is in talks with major Canadian marijuana producer Aurora Cannabis, but stressed that it was interested in the properties of cannabis that treat pain but do not get users high. The talks come as Canada prepares to legalise cannabis for recreational use after many years of permitting it for medicinal purposes. Coca-Cola said it was monitoring the industry and was interested in developing new drinks infused with CBD, or cannabidiol, the non-psychoactive ingredient found in cannabis plants, which alleviates pain. It said, along with many others in the beverage industry, we are closely watching the growth of non-psychoactive CBD as an ingredient in functional wellness beverages around the world. The space is evolving quickly. I like that, functional wellness beverages. It's a good name for a band, that, isn't it? Many cannabis advocates argue that it is capable of relieving conditions including arthritis and diabetes. The legal low-concentrate CBD oil is said to be beneficial, promoting sleep, boosting appetite and reducing stress, depression and anxiety. So there you go. Watch out, kids. Coke are trying to get you stoned and get you addicted to that awful marijuana plant. You know, the one that the UK government says has no medicinal benefits, but funnily enough, Coca-Cola and all these other huge organisations that make some money from them do. Tough one, that. And I'd like to mention the three heroes who have just been sent to jail as the first anti-fracking protesters to be imprisoned in the UK. Simon Roscoe Blevins, 26. Why do they always give their age? I'm not going to read it out. Simon Roscoe Blevins, Richard Roberts were given 16 months in prison, and Richard Loiseau was sentenced to 15 months in jail on Wednesday after being convicted of causing public nuisance by a jury Preston Crown Court. Public nuisance. Oh, you're a nuisance, aren't you? Why were two given 16 months and one got a month less? I wonder what he did that they did that he didn't. Anyway, in a message that has been released as the men wait in Preston prison to be moved to jails elsewhere in the country, Loiseau said he would miss everything about his life outside while serving his sentence. But, he added, I think we will win. This is a last-ditch attempt to squeeze the remaining fossil fuels from the earth. It's like industry clinging on to an old paradigm of the way things operate. In the message, Roberts recounted his part in a 4-day protest that blocked a convoy of trucks carrying drilling equipment from entering the Preston New Road fracking site near Blackpool. He said he was wearing shorts and a t-shirt when he climbed onto a truck, and he remained for 4 days. I got on this lorry about 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if he spoke like that, but I was just in shorts and a t-shirt. The only reason I was able to stay up there for 3 days and nights was because local people handed up clothing, sleeping bags and food and stuff like that. Now, good on them, but you know what my first thought was? 3 days on the top of a lorry, right, and you're being watched by police, you're being watched by other protesters, the press are there. How do you have a poo? Or don't you? Do you hold it in for 3 days? So if anyone was there at the protest, can you email in and let me know? Obviously, let me know about the important stuff like how the lads are getting on in prison and all that political stuff. But more importantly, how did he have a poo up there?
The Frogbit Blog.
For Oliver Bendel, a researcher at a university in Switzerland, worried that the high-tech future we're developing fails to consider the well-being of Earth's other creatures. Specifically, he thinks we should developing animal-friendly autonomous machines. Machine ethics is a young discipline, 10 to 20-year-old. It deals with machine morality or with moral machines. Machine ethics are so far concentrated almost exclusively on automatic actions that affect people. The moral machines I design also take animals into account. In a paper published last month in a Journal of Behavioral Robotics, I've read it many times, Bendel lays out a few ideas for how autonomous machines might be developed to respect the animals around them. Amongst Bendel's animal-friendly autonomous machine ideas, he proposes wind turbines that exhibit themselves when birds approach, robotic vacuum cleaners that avoid ladybugs, and farm equipment that steers around baby deer hidden amongst crops. That's nice, isn't it? Cars that brake for toads and hedgehogs would be important to me. In the future, more and more robots and devices will encounter animals, pets as well as farm animals and wild animals, he said. Robots like No, Pepper, Paro, iPal and K5, never heard of them, but apparently they're famous. They appear everywhere in households, nursing homes, retirement homes and shopping malls. They are primarily oriented towards people. That must change, because in fact they also counter animals, frighten them, disturb them, injure them. At the moment, we are anthropocentric in robot construction. Well, we need to change, and Dad would be total schön, ja? Hey, guess what? It's time for...
Really clever. Nature is clever. It's really, really clever. Nature ain't a Tory. Nature ain't a Trump. That's not saying much because they really, really don't.
Well, this is a bit of mixture of nature is clever and my drugs discussion, which I'm in the process of renaming, okay? Now, I wasn't sure about talking about this because it involves animal experiments with which I completely disagree. But this one apparently was performed according to the guidelines laid out in the Animal Welfare Act. And then it says the creatures were released and went on to live normal lives. Well, that's what they say. How would they know? Would they interview them a year later just to check that they were getting on fine? Especially after what happened to them when you listen to this. We're talking about octopuses that have been given MDMA. Yeah, that's right. California two-spot octopuses were given MDMA. They were later seen that night clubbing, doing the big box, little box dances, but with 4 pairs of arms, which must have been a bit of a sight to behold, I think you'll agree. Now, seriously, I've talked about the intelligence of octopuses before, and the amazing thing is they're so far removed in the evolutionary tree from humans as is just about possible to be. We went our separate ways. We split up. We had a divorce from them about 500 million years ago. But interestingly, there are lots of similarities, and these are confirmed by these studies that they've done. Because I don't know if you know, octopuses contain a lot more of their neurons in their arms, whereas ours are mainly in the brain. Though I did read the other week that our guts also have some neurons in there. Anyway, the octopuses acted like humans do on the MDMA. They went all cuddly and touchy-feely. Basically, they acted like we do. And they found out there's some very, very basic and fundamental behaviours that are the same. And this is what the article said. After the genome of the California two-spot octopus was recently sequenced and published, scientists noticed some curious similarities between human and octopus brains, even though there are over 500 million years of evolution that separates us from them. Namely, we seem to share a transporter that binds the neurotransmitter serotonin. And we all know about serotonin, how it makes us feel happy, and MDMA produces serotonin, yeah? And the study tells us that a lot about the evolutionary roots of serotonergic signaling in the regulation of social behaviours. It's remarkable to think that behaviours and social capacities, typically thought of as rather complex, might go back over 500 million years and be even more widespread in the animal kingdom than we ever thought possible. Well, not that some of us ever thought possible. I think it's just further proof that what a lot of us believe about animal intelligence is turning out to be true. And again, it does appear that these behaviours and emotions and whatever, they all seem to be in everything that nature produces, doesn't it? And it just goes to show...
Nature is clever, it's so fucking clever, cleverer than Trevor. Though I don't know a Trevor, that's all I'm on for clever. Actually, there's weather, and never, I'm fucking vegan leather. But nature is clever, it's really, really clever. Nature is clever, it's really, really clever. Nature is clever, it's really, really clever. Nature is clever.
So, guess who's back? Back again. Yeah, we've missed him for a couple of episodes because he's been on holiday and he's busy. But Sexy Len is back again.
Sexy Len again. Ooh, yeah. It's Len again.
Oh, it's Sexy Len is back again. Actually, I have been saying you have not had chance, have you, to sort of dispute you didn't like the Sexy Len thing, did
I wouldn't
you?
say I didn't like it. It just came as a bit of a surprise, I'll say. Yeah. Well, I can get used to the nickname. I'm sure I'll adapt.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's the theme tune, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anyway, Len, he's actually been on strike for 2 months because I didn't pay him enough, but we've upped the wages. It's $100,000 an episode now. So how's your summer been then, Len?
Well, I'm going to spend that wisely. But yeah, it's been a lovely summer. I think I've been making the most of the weather. Being now back in a bit of an office job is sort of a bit difficult after being outside so much, but you know.
And you got on your bike, didn't you? Which was a big thing for you, because I remember you saying you'd not ridden for years, and it can be quite scary, can't it? I mean, I remember going 8 years without riding from my teens to my mid-20s, and it was terrifying at first, and you were equally nervous, but then you went out and did it, and what happened?
Yeah, it's about 15 miles. About 15 years, rather, since I've been on a bike. So, and I don't exactly live in the most rural of areas, so it was quite terrifying even getting the bike from Halfords and getting it all the way back to my house was the first thing on bus lanes.
Yeah, with all them gears
lanes
and
all them gears and things. So trying to I did a bit of reading up on it, and that actually helped a little bit. But there's no replacement for actually just getting on there and getting on with it.
And you came to work on it
a few times. I did, yes.
How far?
It's about 11 miles each way, so all round 22.
That's a pretty good stint.
Not bad. Not bad.
But you came a cropper.
I did so well, sort of escaping injury and stuff, and I did really well in making it comfortable for myself by getting loads of padding and things like that. So I was just getting into it, and then I had a bit of an incident. So on a lovely little cycle path on the side of a motorway, a big bit of metal jutting out of a fence, and I clipped it, shall we say.
So why did it just appear, this metal?
Well, I think there might have been a small collision with a car on the barrier, and it was just bad luck that it was right near a concrete sort of bus station sort of thing, and I sort of got wedged.
Oh, were you going at full speed?
I was going at full speed, yeah. Only just noticed it at the last minute, managed to put the brakes on and just about clipped it with the corner of my handlebars and went flying.
Did he go over the handlebars or just sort of in a heap?
I got entangled, shall we say, probably within the bike.
Were you near the road? Could you have gone under a car?
No, well, the barrier that was actually sticking out was protecting me from going on the road.
So it
had some of a use, yeah.
But that's not a nice lesson to learn when you're just developing your, feeling comfortable on a bike, and all of a sudden a bike barrier hits you.
All right, and I'm just healing. I had bruises about sort of the size of my sort of complete inner thighs, I suppose.
Did anyone help? Was anyone around?
No, probably. If I took a little look, I think people probably be laughing. It was embarrassment, I think.
That is the thing. That is the thing about coming off your bike. I don't mind coming off my bike. I just don't want to do it when there's people around.
Oh, there's a lot of people. A lot of people. Big motorways, big commute route, But I'm back on it, so it's good. Not commuting yet, but I'm back on it.
Right, good lad. Yeah. And there's chance you might be getting an allotment. You might be going all green on us. And
I am so excited. I'm currently waiting for the letter, basically. So, I mean, if I go into the story, I've been on the wait list for about 6 years. It's a very, very sought after area right near the beach, which is fantastic, which we love already.
For those of our foreign listeners, an allotment is like a piece of land, isn't it, that the council put aside, and you can get a bit of land, and it was for people that didn't have gardens to grow their own veg, wasn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. and this particular plot's been around for a couple of 100 years, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a really big site.
It's that big. It's got a frigging shop.
It has. It's got a shop right in the middle of it. It's got everything that you need. So it's like I was so surprised. Running water. It's got a free rotovators and equipment that you can rent with if you supply the petrol. And I've been blown away by the community and the spirit of the place. I've just got to get the thing.
Yes. So you want to waiting list, and you might get picked.
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, the main point about it is that there's a few of them that are in such a state of disrepair. They've allowed it to be sort of applied for by a selection of people who are on the waiting list. So
wow. So you're going to just start growing your own veg, hopefully.
Vegetables, yes. It's a very all the plots are very overgrown currently. So I think I'll start off small. Most of the advice I've been listening to has been saying tackle about a quarter of it first and then work my way back.
And I suppose you've got people, with it being loads of allotments, you've got people there that will know what grows on that soil, won't you? Because that's one of the main things, isn't it? Whereas mine, nothing grows because it's in the shade. I've got quite a big allotment right opposite the house. That's why I keep the chickens anyway to sort of rescue them, but not a lot grows because by 12 o'clock in the lunchtime the sun's gone behind the trees, so not much grows. But you've got that, and you've got 2 young daughters as well that will be able to spend time and learn the green ways and
I mean at the moment
a green creche, as it were.
Exactly. I mean we've been even in my back garden currently. We've got a little sort of what I would call a magical garden I've put together. So I got a load of interesting like crystals and rocks and stuff and sunflowers and stuff for the daughter to grow, and she's been loving that. So getting a little tiny little spade.
How old are they?
4 and 2.
Right. So the 4-year-old, you should be able to get a digging. Even handling a rotavator. You're never too old to handle heavy machinery. Never too young to handle heavy machinery, I say.
Yeah.
I mean, they used to be down the mines, didn't they, 4 years, a few years back. So get it working. You'd never guess what? We've actually spent we allocate roughly 5 minutes, and we're over 5 minutes already, and we've just waffled on, but that's been brilliant. So thank you for coming in, but we're going to talk things in the future in the next episode, aren't we?
Oh, I'd love to. I think it's a passion of mine, so I look forward to it.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Len. Bye.
It's Len again. It's sexy Len again. Ooh, yeah. It's Len again. Ooh, yeah, it's Len again. Len. Ooh, Len.
Only in the Ural Mountains, Siberia, do we get up early in the morning and collect the finest, shiniest fly agaric mushrooms for you. Only in the Ural Mountains of Siberia do we feed them to Rudolph, our reindeer with over 20 years' experience in psychedelics. Only in the Ural Mountains, Siberia, do we use the finest hickory wood for our bucket piss collectors. Only in the Ural Mountains, Siberia, does Heidi, our famous piss collector, collect the purest hallucinogenic reindeer piss, especially for you. Only in the Ural Mountains, Siberia, do we bottle it while it's still warm and fresh to give the finest, strongest, most psychedelic reindeer piss in the world. So drink only the best. Drink Ural Mountain reindeer piss, the greatest psychedelic trip you'll ever have. Ural Mountain reindeer piss.
Yep, I was reminded of that little story. Remember I talked about it a few months ago because I was actually out in the woods and it's mushroom time season with some fly agaric. And to point out about fly agaric, they are hallucinogenic but toxic. And in certain Siberian tribes, they did, I don't know if they still do, but they did, because they were toxic, they used to feed them to reindeer that would then absorb the toxins. They piss out pure hallucinogenic reindeer piss and the people would drink it. And in a parallel universe, that would be one of the adverts, wouldn't it?
From Big Blob.
Right, anyway, I wanted to start doing a regular feature about the universe and all that weird cosmic stuff that I sometimes go on about. So I thought I'd get the boys back in again to try a new jingle. Do you remember the other episode they did an eco news and they'd taken hash cakes by mistake and it turned into a reggae song and it was a bit unusable, mainly because it was slightly racist. Anyway, but their parents, Lord and Lazy Ponsonby Twatface Smythe, have been and bribed me again and I'm not turning down a big wad of cash. So here they are in the live lounge again, the King's College Traditionals. So, hi boys. Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Frogbit. So, I've got you back in the live lounge to do me a jingle for my new bit on all that hippie cosmic universe stuff. You sound a bit echoey in there.
Yes, Mr. Frogbit. We've been working on it all week. It's our new progressive sound.
You haven't been taking drugs again this time, have you, boys?
Well, to be honest, Mr. Frogbit, we were listening to your show last time and we liked a bit about microdosing LSD to make you more creative. So we thought we'd give it a go.
Oh no, not again.
Yes, so before we came on, we took a dose of 16 milligrams each.
16 milligrams. Did you not hear me say that 16 milligrams was 15 times the microdose amount?
Oh, no. Mummy made us switch it off halfway through. She said us elite boys shouldn't touch drugs like that.
Good advice. Don't do drugs, kids.
Well, she then went on to say we should just stick only to the 3 C's.
The 3 C's? What's that then?
Cocaine, champagne, and cognac.
Oh, right, not so good. But anyway, so are you ready to start the song? When did you take this psilocybin?
Oh, about an hour ago. Actually, we're not sure. Time doesn't seem to have any meaning anyway. It's all a human construct designed to oppress our cosmic consciousness.
Oh, God, I can see this going horribly wrong again.
Anyway, Mr. Frogbit, we're not even going to pretend to do the nice magical singing at the beginning. Our doors of perception have been cleansed and we are seeing things as they truly are. Infinite, aren't we, boys?
Yes.
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 Okay then, let's hear it.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Mr. Frogbit, can we make daisy chains together in the meadow? I think I'd like that. Oh, won't somebody please think of the flowers? You know that they have feelings just like ours. Has someone just turned on all the rainbows? Their day glow, maybe that's just the way my brain goes. And I'm communing with the birds and bees. They told me that I should go hug some trees. My mind unravels like a toilet roll in the deepest secrets of our souls. My mind unravels like a toilet roll in the deepest secrets of our souls. And won't somebody please think of the flowers? They're talking to me saying, we are your friends.
Woo, woo, woo. Thanks, lads. That was very far out.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Frogbit.
One thing, though, I'm just not sure that you should be rhyming toilet rolls with arseholes.
Oh, why's that, Mr. Frogbit?
Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Actually, I quite like that, and I like it so much, I'm going to leave you with my studio engineer, and I might get you to try another couple of jingles that we can do in later shows. Will you give it a go?
Okay, what are you after, man?
Well, I wanted a new one called Is It Okay to Talk About Drugs, because the frog bit on drugs theme has sounded a bit too much like I was endorsing drug taking, which I'm obviously not. I'm just interested in the historical perspective and the part they play in society and all the politics around it. You do realise that?
Yes, of course. Okay, we'll give it a go. See if we can break on through to the other side.
Okay, thanks. Now we actually better get on with the deepest secrets of our soul sketch. This is where I'm going to talk about weird and wonderful stuff, both inner and outer, and sometimes a bit of both.
My mind unravels like a toilet roll in the deepest secrets of our soul.
Now, I remember reading this in the Bill Bryson book, The Short History of Everything. If you've not read it, it's a brilliant book if you're into all that sciencey stuff. And one of the facts that came up that blew me away was fascinating facts about the universe and the atoms it's made up of, is the fact that we are composed entirely of things that have existed before. So we're composed entirely of things like trees, rocks, animals, even dinosaur breath. I mean, did you know that the breath, you breathe in the same atoms that a dinosaur breathed out? Things like when we touch people, shake hands, kiss or whatever, we swap atoms with that person and they become a little bit of you and you become a little bit of them. And maybe that's why long-term couples become more and more alike. Well, one of the reasons, and it's because they're constantly swapping atoms. And I read in the David Attenborough book, Life on Earth, there's that memory resides in substance, yeah, not just in brains, memory resides in substance. They did some experiments on earthworms and found that memory lives on in substance, not just in our brains. And if, therefore, we are made up of substances that are just come from the past, all the atoms of all the creatures past, does it mean that we contain traces of memory of our past lives? Now, there's an interesting thought, isn't it? Now, another thing is the universe is mainly made up of space. I mean, we are mainly made up of spaces, aren't we? The big chunks, there's gaps between the electrons and the neutrons and everything. That means there's big chunks of space everywhere, outward and inward. Now, interestingly, we don't know what 96% of the universe is made up of. I mean, we call it dark matter and dark energy, and we call it that because we don't know what it is. It's amazing to think, isn't it, that we don't know what 96% of the universe is made up of. It's all mystery stuff. And it turns out that roughly 68% of the universe is dark energy, and dark matter makes up about 27%. And don't believe that this dark matter and dark energy just resides out there in space. In fact, they're busy looking for it across the world in deep mines. Because remember, because we're out there in space, space isn't out there. We are out there in space. We are out there as the outer arm of a galaxy, the Milky Way. Yeah. So because we are out there in space, dark energy and dark matter will reside all around us, and maybe even between the gaps in the spaces between our atoms. And energy and all the space in the universe. What is it? What is this energy? Science is looking for a fifth fundamental force, and we've got fundamental forces like gravity and electromagnetic force and nuclear forces between atoms. Now, what if, just what if, that fifth force was a consciousness? What if consciousness was a fundamental force of the universe? What if rocks and inert objects had a consciousness? Now, that really sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? And that is the basis of panpsychism, is called. And I'm not claiming to be a panpsychist. It just really interests me. And I know that sounds a bit weird, that this is universal consciousness even in inert things. But imagine before Newton, if someone had come along and said there was an invisible force pulling us all to the centre of the earth. It would have sounded a bit daft, wouldn't it? And also, if you're sat in a room with someone and they've got a bigger mass than you, the person with the bigger mass is actually dragging the other person closer to them. There's a gravitational force between the two people, and one's pulling the other person closer to each other. Not by very much, but it is there. Now, that sounds a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? So before you dismiss all this consciousness stuff, just realise the ridiculousness of the things that we do know, or the terms that we use to describe the things that we think we know. And it's like the electromagnetic force, isn't it? It's an energy that means you can have a button in your house that you press, and every time you press it, the energy of the sun lights up, and a button makes the room lights up like the sun. And, a few hundred years ago, that would have seemed really weird. Now, Buddhists have always believed in a universal consciousness, and the more I read about it, the more I'm possibly starting to believe that they were right. Now, I'm going to leave that there for now, because I'm going to talk a bit more, like I said, develop the ideas around panpsychism, because I'm not sure it is really counterintuitive, but it is the belief that everything has a consciousness, not just living things, but everything, all the atoms of the universe universe have a consciousness. And, you know, the idea that consciousness doesn't actually just reside in the human brains. And there's this idea, in fact, that our brains are just antenna that pick up the consciousness that is floating around there in the universe. And that sounds really weird. But not, like I said, you know, when you look at gravity and things like that, those ideas that we now accept for granted also sound a bit weird. So I'm going to stop it there. But interesting stuff, huh? Now, I've mentioned this fella a couple of times when discussing Forest Green Rovers, because he owns the club, but I thought I'd do a bit more reading about him, the fella. So here he is in...
Rich people doing good eco things. Rich people doing good eco things. Rich people doing...
Right, Dale Vince, or should I say Dale Vince OBE. Ooh, get you selling out to royalty. Only joking, Dale. I've just realised, actually, Dale Vince as a name that would be correct either way round, wouldn't it? It could be Vince Dale, and no one would notice. Anyway, so here's some stuff I found about him. I just did a bit of research. In 1991, he saw his first wind farm, and he said, I thought either I can carry on by myself with the windmill on my van, or I can get into the big stuff. And in 1995, he founded the Renewable Energy Company. In 1996, he launched his first wind turbine supplying green electricity. Now, he's quite political, and he's made donations to both the Labour Party and the Green Party. And prior to the 2015 general election, he was one of several celebrities who endorsed the parliamentary candidacy of Green Party's Caroline Lucas. And what an exceptional woman she is. And here's another one I found about him. There are two sides to Vince. There's the ex-New Age traveller busted repeatedly by the police for his part in various protests, veteran of the RAF Molesworth occupation against US cruise missiles and the Battle of the Beanfield at Stonehenge. And there's the sharp entrepreneur worth at least £100 million who has built a business empire and can mix it with the toughest of corporations. Yep, so he used to be a New Age traveller, yeah? And this other one says, Dale Vince is an athletic, tall guy and represents pretty much commanding macho image of his own, which probably helps. He recently played a charity match against a Hollyoaks team and won it with a last-minute belter of a header. Didn't do my vegan image any harm. He smiles. I'm not sure if he talks like that, but he does for purposes of this. And another one. Vince is tall and powerfully built. He's got straggly hair, wears black jeans, t-shirt, and an earring. Well, every article I've read, it keeps going on about how tall and powerfully built he is, and it surprises everybody. Is it that they expect an ex-hippie vegan to be a skinny, weedy person incapable of actually lifting anything up? Another headline, Dale Vince interview, the £100 million hippie with wind in his turbines and corn in his burgers. Yep. Actually, it's probably not surprising he's got wind in his turbine after eating all them corn burgers and vegan food. And maybe that's how his company have done so well. You know, when the winds weren't blowing, he just invites a few of his vegan mates round for a lentil dal and some lentil dal and corn burgers. And they go outside and fart. It's like a scene from Blazing Saddles. You know, instead of cowboy boots, it's ex-army boots. Instead of fetlocks, it's dreadlocks. Instead of, well, you know, you get the point. Anyway, so his company, which is Ecotricity, which supplies electricity in the UK, is in Stroud, and their offices are 5 minutes away from Forest Green Rovers football club. Now, like many other small clubs, they were struggling and about to go out of business. And despite it being 100 years old, well, Vince stepped in, bought the club and turned it into vegan, as I mentioned in previous episodes. And it's the world's first carbon-neutral football club, and all the food they've got on sale at the mat is vegan. So imagine it gives the team an unfair advantage when they've got the wind behind them. Sorry, another fart joke. So anyway, good on you, Dale Vince. Ex-sort of hippie traveller and now, you know, a person doing good eco things. I might get in touch and see if they'll come on the show. But you are another great example of...
Eco things. Rich people doing good eco things. It's not where you're from, it's where you're at. And you can't help it if you're a posh rich twat.
Right, that's all I've got time for. Thanks to Len. Thank you very much for listening, and speak soon. Oh, and I just want to say, I believe Christine Blasey Ford. Thanks for listening. Bye.
From Big Blog.